Hello out there and welcome to the Revered Veterans and Community Show. We have another special guest and we have great guests, and today we have another great one. His name is Sal Giarratani. He's a Vietnam veteran. First of all, let me salute you for your service, Sal. Thank you for coming on the show because I know you're busy. And by the way, you are also a writer for two newspapers, I believe the Post-Gazette.
Yes. The Post-Gazette out of the North End.
And the Boston City paper.
Which comes out of like Dorchester, serving the southern part of the city of Boston.
Right, but before we get that, I'd like you to talk about your education and about your family, so
okay.
Lead us into it.
Okay, well, I grew up in Roxbury in the South End. My father worked at Boston City Hospital, so it was convenient for him for work. He came from the North End, and my mother came from Charlestown. And my name is Giarratani, and my mother's maiden name was Harrington. So I'm one of those Gala guys. It's always good because I never get into trouble. If I can always blame the other half if I do something wrong. You know.
That's good.
Yeah, and I think I have the Irish wit.
I can see that.
I have the Italian looks, but the Irish wit.
I can see that.
Yeah, but I've always loved writing. Writing's like been a passion. I mean, I've had a career as a police officer that I just completed.
How many years, by the way, were you on the police?
Well, all told, with the Department of Mental Health in Boston at 4 different sites, I worked 40 years.
Wow.
As a police officer, I worked 27 years when I retired as a sergeant. And my last place of employment site was the Eric Lindemann Mental Health Center. For people who know the movie The Departed, that was the building that they used in the movie. It's right near Boston Garden. TD Garden, or it's right near the Garden, yes. But anyway, I was there for, that's where I ended up my 27 years. I was a sergeant for 14 of the 27 years, so I was a supervisor. But all that really means is you make about $13 more a week than the guys that take orders from you. So it's not really that, you know, $13 more.
Let me ask you, excuse me, as a police officer, tell us a little about some of your famous, if you made any arrests or some of your famous cases.
Oh, see, I was always a police officer. I think DMH police were really good at community policing because we're dealing with a population that there are a lot of personality issues. You know, I have learned that I always felt safe in my environment because most people who suffer from mental illness are trying to get treatment, are in treatment, and are going along with the program. There are times when people stop taking meds and stuff like that. One of the things I really liked, well, two things. The best thing I liked as a police officer, the thing that stands out that made me glad it was, I saved somebody's life once from
Tell us about that, Sal.
Well, I found somebody trying to hang themselves, and I was able to get her down. And everybody came and they thanked me for doing such a good job. And I said, well, my job is never to let people die while I'm working because I hate the paperwork. But that was a joke because my job was to keep people alive. And like 13 years later, that person that I saved, she thanked me 13 years later.
How's she doing today?
The last time I saw her was like 13 years ago. She's living out in the community, and she's much better than she was when I knew her when I saved her life. But you know, my job wasn't to run around arresting people. My job was to keep people safe.
Right.
And that's how
I always thank you for that.
And that's how I always looked at it.
Saving our life, that's something good.
And you know, and I was proud when I finished my career because I did what I was supposed to do, and I trained younger guys, and I gave them the same advice that I took from people before me. And that's that our job is to keep people alive and to keep people safe, and that's what I did, you know. But I wanted to say, I don't know if people in Revere probably know that there is another Sal Giarratani out there, my cousin. He lives over in Beachmont, and I remember years ago he was always getting either telephone calls for people commenting on something I wrote, and he would have to call me. And he said, hey, you know, but we have the same name, Sal Giarratani.
How did that happen?
We were both named after our grandfather.
Oh.
Both named after our grandfather. I am the younger Sal Giarratani. But we both have a lot of hair still. Even he has a lot of hair. It's the good Giarratani hair.
And what's the difference in ages, if there is any?
Oh, yes. I believe, well, he's 13 years older than me. But he still looks damn good for his age.
And he lives in Revere?
He lives in Revere. He's lived in Revere for over 50 years. Yes.
Wow.
Yes. I see him every so often. We catch up on old things.
And what does he do, if I may ask?
He's not retired.
Oh, but what did he do before?
Well, he was in. I think he was in produce, and he had a restaurant once.
Oh.
But basically, he was in produce a lot. Salesperson, that kind of stuff. You know.
Right. I want to get back to your family, if I
Okay.
may, Sal. You got a lovely daughter. We talked about her on the air.
Yes. She's 27 years old.
Right.
And she graduated from Northeastern, got her bachelor's and her master's there.
In what?
She's going into architecture. So right now she works at a firm in downtown Boston, and she's in the process of taking the multiple tests that you have to take to become a licensed architect. And she's hoping by the time she's 30, she will have taken all these tests and be a licensed architect.
What do you know? Can you tell me what firm she works? Because I used to work for a lot.
No, this is a firm in downtown Boston on Kingston Street. It's slipping my mind as we
That's
speak.
okay.
But she has enjoyed working there very much, and she's learning a lot there. And she's already gone off to like business trips to Chicago. She was doing something for a building in Chicago, so she's getting the experience, hands-on. And I think she's waiting to be a licensed architect.
That's a good future.
And it's
by
not
the way.
and it's not a field that a lot of women go into.
No.
So this is good for her, and it's good that more females are thinking about architecture. Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah. See, at one point she wanted to go into culinary arts, but then I think she decided rather than baking the bread, she wanted to build the bakery. You get it?
Yep.
Oh, okay. All right. Yes.
That's good.
Yes.
That way, when she gets finished, she'll be rolling a dough.
Yes.
I could
A
do
lot of
little-
dough. A lot of dough. Thank you so much for that joke. That was a great joke. Yes.
Come on, even.
But so this year I hit another birthday on May 4th. I always call it Quattro de Mayo. That's a very important holiday for me.
May 4th, yeah, just before Quattro, right.
Yeah,
okay.
Quattro de Mayo.
Mayo, okay.
And this year I turned a year older,
Is that your birthday?
May 4th.
May 4th.
Yes, yes.
Before Cinco de Mayo.
Before Cinco de Mayo. It's much more important to me. Much
Right.
more important to me. But and currently, right now I do a lot of since I retired, I have more time on my hands, obviously. But that's never been a problem. I've always been a busy person. I write 3, 4, 5 articles a week. And most of this stuff, I'm a natural writer. I think I learned it over time. Some people have gifts. I think writing is a gift. And it's fun. Whatever you're doing, it should be fun. And this is fun. And I am serious. I mean, I talk about serious issues, but I always try to find something in a serious issue that you can just stop and smile and say, like that. It's a good thing. And in the city paper, I started my new little thing is photography. So I'm taking more and more pictures in the city paper, and I'm becoming a photojournalist.
Beautiful.
Pictures and words need to go together, and they bring out a story better, because a picture, taking a photograph is the same as writing a story, because there's a story in the photograph. There's a story.
They say a picture's worth 1,000 words.
Yes, and then the words are worth the other. I don't know. Maybe it's 500. I don't know anymore.
So, people may not know this, but you and I met at the Beachmont VFW when the Vietnam Wall came here.
Yes, the mini wall. That's
Right.
when we first met.
Right.
And he introduced himself as Morris. And I said, Morris? I've never heard anybody who had the same first and last name before.
Right, but you can call me by my first name.
Morris.
Sal. Right, okay.
Yes. And when I first called him, I said, "Hey, Morris, this is Sal." I just had to do that.
I got to shake your hand.
Okay. Well, that was a good one.
By the way, I'd like to get back, before we get
Yeah,
onto the
yeah.
newspapers, I'd like to talk about your military. You was in the Air Force.
Okay, I was in the United States Air Force.
In Texas?
In Lackland Air Force Base. I was telling Morris that Texas is my favorite state away from home. In the last several years, since I have relatives who live in Austin, I go to Austin a lot.
That's the capital of Texas.
Yes, I just go down there to relax, to enjoy the temperatures, and the people are laid back, and it's so like Revere or Chelsea or East Boston, isn't it? Oh yes, we're all relaxed up here. You know?
Oh, we definitely are.
Oh yeah, and but down there, you know, people will stop. If you get lost, they'll give you directions. I was telling somebody earlier today. I remember I was down there and I got lost on the opposite side of town. Austin has 800,000 people. It's a very big city. I was on the opposite end. I told a cab driver, I'm lost. He said, get in your car and follow me. And he took me to where I needed to be. And then he waves at me goodbye and he drives away after he brings me to my destination. I said, that was like shocking. This guy was so nice. But I think down there, that's the normal thing that people do. It's kind of funny. Yeah.
Well, they learn from us. I got to tell you, they got to learn from us because the people in Revere are beautiful.
Oh, good. But you know, but the nice thing about it, I was down there for 13 days once, and the low temperature was 96. 96.
The low?
The low was 96.
I wish they'd bring some of that down
Yes.
here during our
and
winters.
So I usually spend my days in Austin, Texas, in a pool outside in the sun. And I just go out there and I just try to turn into that Mediterranean kind of look. I want to get nice and dark.
You must get a nice tan in the
I
summer.
get a nice tan, and I use lots and lots of stuff because when I was 37, they had to take a little something off here because I wasn't wearing any protection.
Oh.
And so now I wear protection all the time when I go to the beach because the last thing I want is to have any more little things on my nose.
Oh, you mean from the rays from the sun?
Yes, yes.
That you mean it was cancerous?
Yes, and so I had it taken off on my birthday, by the way. It's not-
March the 4th.
No, May
May
the
the
4th.
4th,
It
May
was
the
May the
4th.
4th.
Excuse me.
Many years ago. But I've been careful since. I always thought Italian guys never got tan. Italian guys got tan, but they never got skin cancer. And then I realized I'm only 50% Sicilian. The other 50% is Irish.
They get it?
Yeah, they get it. So, you know, so I blame my mother for that. No,
I
don't.
think they call that, maybe correct me if I'm wrong, is it called melanoma?
Something like, yes.
That's just like a skin disease?
Yeah, it was not the worst
So
kind.
what would happen if it was left on? Nothing would happen.
No, but you know, it would grow and it would grow. It was pretty big. It was, It was nasty. It was nasty looking. Yeah. And
I'm glad they did that.
And you don't want to have any kind of cancer, any kind, on your
No.
nose. No.
No.
Yeah. But I've been pretty healthy over the years. I mean, I've stayed pretty, and I think I stay calm as much as I can, living in a very uptight area of the country, you know.
By the way, I got to tell you, we not only met at the Beachmont VFW, I believe we also met at the Don Orion home in East Boston.
Yeah, they were doing something for
Valentine's Day, right.
And I was there taking some pictures.
Right.
Smoking Joe. We all know Smoking Joe.
Let me tell you, terrific. Smoking Joe, if you're listening to me, the people love your music. I love your music. And even my feet that hardly ever moved.
Well, he's a good entertainer because
Excellent.
he sings, he does everything.
And by the way, he entertains us here every single summer down at the American Legion. Smoking Joe and the Henchman.
Yeah, that's
terrific.
Right. The Henchman.
Yep.
Tough name, though, isn't it? The Henchman.
Joe,
okay.
Thank you for your service.
Yes. But I heard he's going. I think he's in Florida right now.
Yep.
Right. Yeah. He's getting warm.
Well, he heard about the winter up here and he took off.
Yes. But I must say that.
But his music is hot, though.
Yeah, his music is hot. and you know, I only moved to East Boston like 4 years ago.
Is that where you live in now?
Yeah, East Boston. But as a kid, I spent almost every summer in Revere Beach because Revere Beach was the place to go to. We would take the train, get off at Revere Beach Station, and then my parents didn't like sand, so they went down to the grassy knoll at the end on the right near the Winship side, and they'd set their blanket up, get their transistor radio going, and my brother and I would get like $1 a piece, and we'd be gone for hours riding all the rides. The Dodgems.
Sandy's rides, I remember that. I used to take my little girls and my son there. Yeah.
And the Wild Mouse. I remember the Wild Mouse. People in Revere probably remember the Wild Mouse.
Did you ever go to that?
Oh,
nice
I loved the
hippodrome?
Hippodrome. I loved the race cars that were. They had race cars upstairs, and they were cool.
They also had a bowling alley up there too.
Oh, I knew the race cars.
Yep.
But the Hippodrome was like a great, like they had those old pinball machines from like the turn of the 19th to 20th century. Like they were already ancient when I was a little kid, and they were, and I think they could have resisted anything because they were hardest. It was heavy. It was a very heavy machines back then.
By the way, I got to say to you, at the Revere City Hall,
Yeah.
if you walk in, there's in a cage Remember those horses, the wooden horses
Yes.
that used to go up and
Yeah.
down? Well, they have one in there that they kept as a memento, and it's fantastic. I remember I used to sit on them too. My kids used to sit on them, and my missus used to sit on them. So we had.
I had a favorite horse in there too. It was the black horse that had the white tail and white spots. I loved that horse. Whenever my parents would take us there, we do it when I was small, but when we got older, there was only one horse I wanted to ride. Everybody has like a horse that they like.
That's
I used
good.
to hate it when another kid was on it. I said, I have to wait for him to get off because I don't want to ride any other horse but my horse.
That's good.
Yeah.
Sal, I'd like to get back, if I may, on the newspapers because that is your livelihood.
Yeah, well, yeah, this is my love of my life, writing.
Right. Now, the Post-Gazette, you told me before the show, is 118 years old.
It was established in 1896 by the current publisher, Pam Donnaruma's grandfather. And the paper has been going strong, never missing a deadline in all these years.
118 years, I never missed a
No
deadline?
missed deadlines. The paper always comes out.
And is there any charge for these papers?
Well, these papers are distributed like I help in East Boston. I deliver papers in East Boston to different stores, and someone else also does that. And I also, I've been trying to get more and more information in the Post-Gazette serving like the town of Winthrop or the city of Revere, because we're all sort of tied together. At least the Italian-American community is tied together. Because a lot of people who live in Revere, like my cousin, Revere was the country. They came here from the North End. You know, it doesn't look like the country anymore, but it used to be the country. And so a lot of people look forward to the Post-Gazette because they want to find out what's going on back where they came from.
So that's good.
And people still go back there. Some people still have relatives back there. I recently took some of my cousins who they were younger cousins who didn't know that much about the family history, and I was showing them, I was giving them a walking tour of the family.
Right. You know, we're about a month away. What's today? February 19th. We're only about a month away from St. Patrick's Day, so
I'll be celebrating in St. Patrick's Day. I'll be over in South Boston.
Will you?
I'll be having my green beer and my
With the new mayor, Martin Wall?
yes, and I'll be having my corned beef and cabbage. You know.
Good. Maybe I'll come up and join you.
Oh,
Here's another good newspaper. This is called the
Boston City paper.
Yeah, hold that up. Let them see it on the TV.
Oh, the Boston City paper has been around, I would say, since the late 70s, and it's published by a gentleman by the name of Paul Feeney, who comes from Dorchester. He's a Dorchester lifer, and he loves papers too, and he's been putting this paper out for 37 years now, and I met him years ago on the Irish side of my whole life here, you know, and so I've been helping him off and on for a good amount of years, especially the last 4 or 5 years steady, and especially with my new developing skill of taking photography.
Right.
You know.
You know, we have two papers in Revere, the Revere Advocate and the Revere Journal, and they're terrific newspapers just as well as the Post-Gazette and the Boston City papers. Something I always wondered, do the newspapers work together around the community, or is it like more competition, or it's not, or it's really localized?
I think it's like I think, you know, like the Post-Gazette is a unique kind of paper because it's not really a neighborhood paper. It is and it isn't, because it covers neighborhood stuff, but it's also like an ethnic kind of newspaper telling Italian Americans what's happening around the greater Boston area.
So the Italian Americans, so could also be the Vietnamese Americans or the Chinese Americans? Or?
Yeah, but this is a paper that ties people back to their roots, with their grandparents. I think that's how a lot of people still view it today. It's a very unique paper because they do. The other day, so they have in here they have a cooking column, they have a social column. I do a baseball column. There's a boxing column. I mean, this paper has all kinds of columns that you don't see in many.
Right, I was just going to say that. By the way,
it's a unique paper.
Talking about baseball columns, have you ever met any famous ball players from the Red Sox or the Yankees?
Or the Yankees. Oh, when I was younger, I remember I met Reggie Smith when he was a rookie, and I didn't even know who he was. And I saw him getting out of the cab, so I ran up to him. I says, "Are you somebody?" And he says, "Well, I'm somebody." I says, "Well, what somebody are you? He says, well, my name is Reggie Smith. I said, hey, Reggie, can you sign my, I gave him something to sign, you know. So that's the first time I met. Reggie Smith was a very interesting, good ball player, part of that '67 Impossible Dream team.
Right.
Yeah.
I would like to mention one thing. When I was a young man, a young kid, we didn't have television in those days, but we had the radio. We used to listen to that. And one of the youngest ball players I'd ever played in the major leagues, real young, was a gentleman that played for the Giants, Mel Ott. I don't know if you ever heard.
I know the name.
Mel Ott?
Yeah. 16
years old.
Wow.
So 16 and a half as a ball player. He used to have a habit of kicking his left leg up in the air before he swung at the ball. But he was a real hero to the kids.
See, I love doing my sports column. I love politics, but I also love baseball. So I've been doing a baseball column for about the last 4 years, 12 months a year. When you think about Mel Ott, you know, I always think of Tony C.
Yep.
When he came up in '64, in '64 I was 16. So he was a big deal for like young Italian American kids. That not only was he an Italian American, he also came from here.
Yep.
And I know that you know, people in East Boston, people in Revere, people in Swampscott, that, you know, he was a big deal. And then how tragically, like, his whole career was forever changed when he got beamed in 1967, because he was destined to be who knows what.
Right, he had a great career and a great future at
and one pitch and it like ended. I mean, he came back better than most people would have come back, but he didn't last long, and his eyesight went.
I believe his brother Billy.
And then Billy Knightley used to play, because there was one time they were hoping to get all three Knightley's into the outfield at the same time, but they got 2 out of 3 in. You know. Yeah, but that's such a. It seems like such a long time ago. That was 50 years ago, by the way, right? Because this is 2014.
Right.
So it's 50 years ago this April that Tony Knightley made his debut with the Boston Red Sox at Fenway Park. In his first at bat, he had a home run. Well, listen, before I get off this, I was looking. This lady here. This is a really neat.
People always ask me about that. Let me give you a little history. Can I give you a little history on this?
Yeah.
We have a lovely lady at our senior center, and I happen to be a senior. Her name is Alice Griffin.
You're not a senior? Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
I'm a good old senior.
Okay.
Her name is Alice Griffin, and I asked her to make me a prop, you know, for the TV show that I do.
Yes.
Sort of kind of patriotic. I didn't tell her what I wanted. So she made this, and she gave me this, donated it to the prop here.
Good.
And I love it. I mean, it's beautiful. And by the way, if anybody wants to have a doll made like this, she does all kinds. Let it go to the Revere Senior Center. Let them go there. Get a hold of Alice Griffin, 25 Winthrop Avenue.
And she'll help. And she'll be sure to help them.
Right. Now, we have about 3 minutes left.
Okay.
Sal, take 2.5 and talk about whatever you wish or what you'd like to see about the future in newspapers, and it's all yours.
Okay. Well, I do think that newspapers, even though the Internet's here, neighborhood newspapers still have, I think, a future. They just have to be... It's a changing environment. You have to keep the newspapers relevant to people, because they can get their news from so many other places. But but a neighborhood newspaper that tells you, they tell you the life of the life of the community. They tell you, like, babies are born, they get the picture here. People pass away, there's the obituaries here. People win honors, the events published. You know, that's what neighborhood newspapers are for.
I was going to ask you a question. I'm glad you brought that up. People that read books, people used to go to the library to get books. Now they can get them off the internet.
Right.
Newspapers, I see people with their little tablets.
Right.
And they go there and they scroll into the Globe and things.
You know, I need to touch a newspaper. I need to turn a page and hear it being turned. I need to feel the newspaper. That's how I get my joy out of reading the newspaper. I can't do it on a screen. You can't. It's not. No, you need to touch it. Go, ooh. Hear that sound? That's the sound I want to hear.
That's good.
Yeah. But hey, listen, this is a fun show. I don't do TV that often, because mostly I'm a writer. But it is fun, you know. I'll tell it. People have no idea what I look like too, so that could be good or bad, you know. So now they know what I look like.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
And they also know what you do. And by the way, I got to say you're an excellent writer. I've read some of your stuff in the papers, and it's very, very, very
You know,
good.
and I know that the longer I write, the better I get, because that's part of life. Yet you get better. You know, like I look back at some of the older stuff, and I wondered how I ever wrote that. But you know, for the age that I was writing it, that was good too. But now I'm writing for a guy that's my age, and I'm writing. I never have written. I've always written for people to read with me or to think with me. That's what I call the column, thinking out loud. I want you to. I'm not trying to tell you what to do.
No.
Or anything.
Sal, I would like, for example, let's say the Revere TV,
Yeah.
the television station, if they have something big going on, something good, and they want to let the community know, not only in Revere, but outside Revere, could they get a hold of you and have you put it in the Post-Gazette?
Oh, yeah, because I'm always looking for little items. I do a column called To Talk of Many Things.
Tell them how they would contact you,
Yeah,
please.
and if you want to send me something that you think that I might like in the column, or that other people might like to read, send it to Post-Gazette at AOL.com, attention Sal, and then I'll take a look at it, and then I'll stick it in that column.
And you make the decision yourself whether it goes in the paper, or do you have the editors or someone?
No, usually, most of the time, it lies in my hands. Most of the time, yeah. It's space required, you know. If not else, I have to. But mostly, if people give me something, it usually gets printed.
That's good. Well, Sal, I guess we're just about out of time, so I want to say thank you for coming down here. Thank you for telling us about your family, about your exploits, about your newspapers, about your police. And like I always close the show, I say, may God bless you for your service.
Okay.
Thank you for coming.
You too.
Thank you.
All right.
God bless the people of Revere.
And thank you all for listening to me.
And God bless our troops. But most of all, our great country, the United States of America, Sal.
Yes.
We have great guests on here, and you are one of the great ones.
Oh, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay.